The air was heavy, thick with the golden dust that rose from the beaten ground, illuminated by the last rays of sun that stubbornly tried to pierce through the trees. In the center of the makeshift arena, a young boy, barely a child, held the reins of an imposing donkey whose front legs were suspended in the air in a silent challenge. His eyes, fixed on the horizon, seemed to carry the weight of a world he was just beginning to understand. Around him, men in straw hats and denim overalls watched, some with skepticism, others with an almost painful curiosity. And there, to the right, a man in an impeccable suit, dark hat, and a discreetly glinting pocket watch, observed the scene with an expression that mixed arrogance and a hint of boredom. He had bet a fortune, $1 million, that no one could tame that beast. But what no one knew, and what was about to be revealed on that dusty evening, was that destiny had its own plans, and they did not include the defeat of a boy who had nothing to lose. That moment, frozen in time, was the prelude to something that would change everyone's lives there forever. Now I'm going to ask you to click subscribe to the channel so you don't miss stories like this. The fine dust danced in the air, creating a golden veil that enveloped the scene, as if nature itself wanted to add a magical touch to that moment of suspense and anticipation. The donkey, an animal of remarkable strength and temperament, reared up with contained fury, its wild eyes reflecting the light of the setting sun, which painted the sky with shades of orange and purple. On its back, the boy, whose name was Caleb, held firm, a small figure amidst the grandeur of the animal, which seemed like a giant of muscle and nerves. His simple clothes, faded denim overalls and a cotton shirt, patched in some places, contrasted with the imposing presence of the farmer, Mr. Harrison, who observed everything with an almost palpable air of superiority. Harrison, a man who built his empire on the basis of force and intimidation, was known for his audacious bets and for his collection of valuable possessions, from imported luxury cars, like a Rolls-Royce Phantom he kept in his climate-controlled garage, to jewels worth small fortunes, like the diamond ring that sparkled on his ring finger. He lived in a mansion in Greenwich, Connecticut, a town where luxury was the rule, not the exception. His properties were vast, his lands stretched for miles, filled with purebred cattle and crops that yielded millions. His name was synonymous with power and wealth, and his word was law throughout the region. The $1 million bet was not just about the donkey, it was about his reputation, his word, his ability to control everything and everyone around him. He had brought the donkey, nicknamed the Untamable, from a distant farm, paying an exorbitant sum to own an animal that, according to him, would never be tamed by any human being. And now, a boy, an orphan who lived by odd jobs and the charity of a few farmers, was challenging everything he represented, all his authority and his status. Caleb, in turn, had nothing to lose. His life was a succession of challenges, of difficult days and cold nights, spent in barns or under the protection of trees. He had been abandoned as a baby, left on the doorstep of an orphanage in a small town, and since then, life had been a constant struggle to get a plate of food and a place to sleep. He had no family, no possessions, no fixed home. The only asset he possessed was his determination, his unwavering will to survive, to prove to himself and the world that he was capable of something great, something no one expected of him. He had heard about Mr. Harrison's bet, about the rumors circulating in town about the donkey no one could ride, and a flame ignited in his chest. It wasn't for the money, although $1 million could change his life forever, lifting him out of misery and giving him a chance at a future. It was for the chance to show that strength was not just in wealth or power, in the amount of land or the sparkle of jewels, but in courage and persistence, in the ability to believe in oneself when no one else did. He had spent days observing the donkey, studying its movements, its breathing, its wild soul, which seemed as untamable as his own. He knew that brute force would not be enough to tame that animal. Something more was needed, something that connected man to animal, a kind of silent understanding, an empathy that transcends words. And as the donkey reared, brayed, and tried to throw him off, Caleb whispered words of calm, of affection, of respect, as if he were talking to an old friend. He wasn't trying to tame the animal by force. He was trying to understand it, to gain its trust, to show that he was not a threat. The men around, who had previously mocked the boy's audacity, who had laughed at his presumption, now watched in silence, some with teary eyes, others with their mouths agape in astonishment. They saw not just a boy on a donkey, but the hope that perhaps the world still had room for the small, for the forgotten, for those who dared to dream and defy the odds. The tension was palpable, the air crackled with the expectation of an outcome no one could predict. The sun was almost setting, and the shadow of the trees began to engulf the arena, transforming the scene into a stage for a drama that would be remembered for a long time. Caleb's destiny, and perhaps that of everyone there, was about to be sealed on that magical evening. With each lunge of the donkey, each kick and rear, Caleb's body moved in sync, as if they were one, an extension of each other. There was no struggle, just a dangerous dance between the animal's brute force and the boy's delicate understanding. Mr. Harrison, who had previously worn a smug smile, certain of his victory and the $1 million that would remain in his pocket, now had his brow furrowed, his eyes fixed on the scene with an intensity he rarely showed, a mixture of disbelief and a reluctant hint of admiration. He had seen many men try to tame the untamable, and all had failed miserably, some even getting seriously injured. Strong, experienced men who boasted of their skill with animals, but who couldn't even stay on the donkey's back for more than a few seconds. But Caleb was different. He didn't use a whip, he didn't use spurs, he didn't use any instrument of coercion, just his firm hands on the reins and a soft voice that seemed to calm the beast, as if he were singing a lullaby to a baby. Time seemed to have stopped, suspended in the dusty air. The silence was broken only by the donkey's snorts, the muffled murmurs of the men, and the sound of Caleb's heart beating strongly in his chest. Suddenly, the donkey stopped. Its front legs, which had been in the air, touched the ground softly, almost like a ballet. It lowered its head, and a tremor ran through its body, a sign of surrender, of acceptance. Caleb, still on its back, stroked its neck, and the animal responded with a soft growl, a sound that seemed more like a sigh of relief than a roar of fury, a sound of gratitude. The impossible had happened. The donkey, the untamable, was tamed, not by force, but by gentleness and patience. A cry of surprise and admiration echoed through the arena, breaking the silence that had settled. The men who had been motionless now stirred, some applauding enthusiastically, others with tears in their eyes, unable to contain their emotion. Mr. Harrison, in turn, remained silent for a long moment, his expression unreadable, a mixture of shock and respect. He had lost the bet, $1 million, an amount that for most people was an incalculable fortune, capable of changing lives and generations. But what he had witnessed was something that money could not buy, something worth far more than any fortune. It was proof that true strength was not in wealth, material possessions or power, but in the soul, in courage, and in a boy's ability to touch the heart of a wild animal. Caleb dismounted the donkey, his feet touching the ground, with a lightness that contrasted with the grandeur of the moment, as if he were walking on clouds. He approached Mr. Harrison, who was still in shock, processing what had just happened. I don't know what to say," stammered the farmer, his voice hoarse, almost inaudible, a contrast to his normally imposing voice. Caleb simply smiled, a simple, pure smile that lit up his tired but now radiant face. "I just wanted to show that anything is possible, Mr. Harrison," the boy said, with a calm and confident voice. The farmer, for the first time in a long time, felt a lump in his throat, an emotion he couldn't name. He extended his hand, and Caleb shook it, a firm and sincere grip. You taught me a lesson, Caleb," Harrison said, his eyes moist. A lesson worth far more than $1 million, a lesson about what truly matters in life. In the days that followed, the story of Caleb and the untamable spread like wildfire throughout the region, reaching the ears of people in distant towns. The farmer, keeping his word with an integrity that surprised many, handed over the $1 million to Caleb, an amount that would change the boy's life forever. But the money was just the beginning of a new journey. Harrison, touched by the boy's purity and courage, offered him a home in his own mansion, an education in the best schools, and the chance to build a future he had never dreamed of, a future of unlimited opportunities and possibilities. Caleb, who once had nothing, now had everything: a family, a home, and the certainty that life, no matter how difficult, always held unexpected surprises and twists. That day in the dusty arena was not just about taming a donkey. It was about taming fear, hopelessness, and the belief that some dreams are impossible. It was about the strength of a boy who, with his simplicity and courage, shocked the world and showed that true wealth lies in what we carry within us, the ability to dream, to persevere, and to believe. And you, what would you do if you had the chance to change your life with an act of courage? Have you ever found yourself in a situation where persistence was the key to success? Share your story in the comments. If you've made it this far, I've left a story that I'm sure you'll enjoy. It's right here on the screen. Just click on this video that's appearing for you. See you there.